Welcome back, everyone, to the Life Testimonies podcast, where we dive deep into extraordinary Christian testimonies and all extraordinary stories, no matter where you are in life, no matter what faith you are. Stories of resilience, transformation, and the human spirit. I'm your host, Christopher Kay, and today we have a truly remarkable guest with us. Imagine facing death not once, not twice, but 20 times. And our guest today, Fred Rutman, also known as Repeatedly Dead Fred, and he's going to tell us what that means, has lived through this unimaginable ordeal. Fred is also the author of the memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times, which I'm going to show right on the screen here. And also below in the description, I'll give you a direct link to get that book because I love the Kindle version. I fell in love with Kindle because, you should see my library down here.
Mhm.
And so with The Summer I Died 20 Times, he shares his incredible journey of survival, recovery, and the power of intermittent fasting, which is very important for people who are on keto, much as myself. Now, Fred's story is one of courage, humor, and an unyielding will to live. From his days as a marketer and academic to his life altering medical experiences, Fred has faced and overcome challenges that most of us can't even begin to fathom. Join us as we explore Fred's journey, the lessons he's learned, and the wisdom he has to share, whether you're facing your own battles or simply looking for inspiration, and in his case, aspiration. Just kidding. This episode is sure to leave. It's a dead joke. This episode is sure to leave you moved and motivated. So you have to get this book, and we'll link it down below. And also, when you read the book, you notice the book recounts his extraordinary medical journey from 2009 to 2018, during which he faced numerous life-threatening situations due to his heart repeatedly stopping. So, without further ado, let's welcome Fred Rutman to the show. Fred, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you
You're
for
very
that great introduction. It's the best introduction I've ever had.
You're very welcome, Fred. Really, really excited to hear your story. Really excited to talk to you finally on my podcast. Now,
Mhm.
Fred, I want to ask you, going back to the beginning, where you grew up, and what brought you to the place where you first experienced your heart stopping? Like, what was going through your mind? Can you share that with us?
Sure. This all started in the summer of 2009. I was a college professor teaching marketing and finance, and I was actually marking papers. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't. And I guess I thought I woke up, but what I really didn't know is I had just come back to life because I had died. And it took the doctors many months to figure out what was actually happening to me. Like you, I'm still overweight, but I used to be massively overweight. And when I would come into the hospital, they just sort of, went with the stereotypical, here's a middle-aged overweight white guy. He must be having a heart attack.
Mm.
And so they would test me for a heart attack, and I wasn't having a heart attack. And then they would just send me home. So, oh well, you deal with it, kind of thing. So I want to add that I'm not trying to blame anybody in the medical establishment, uh, for anything. It's just sometimes stuff happens and you meet the wrong doctor at the wrong time. And that's what seemed to happen to me a ridiculous number of times. So that's what happened. My heart would stop. It's called a sudden onset full heart block. And it means the electrical system in my heart started to die, and there's nothing telling my heart to pump blood. So, your heart doesn't pump, you tend to die. So I was clinically dead 20 times, and it led to me collapsing a number of times. If I was out for a walk, I would hit my head on a curb or a manhole. If I
Oh,
was in a public washroom, I'd collapse and hit my head on the edge of the sink. So a lot of concussions, a lot of brain trauma, um, cognitive deficiencies, brain loss, memory loss, um, and I'm still fighting some of that stuff to this day. So
I can't imagine someone of your stature and of your age and basically heart attacks, brain aneurysm, falling on the pavement, striking your head. Um, Anybody at any age can do that.
Hmm.
So, especially heart attacks and brain aneurysms, they happen at any age. And
Hmm.
I wanted to know what was going through your head when you woke up in the hospital. Like, did the doctor tell you immediately what happened, or
No, it took them months to figure it out, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say they were misdiagnosing me on purpose. Obviously, that's not their game. Um, would could some of them have put in more effort to look outside the box? What happens to me, this sudden onset full heart block, typically happens to men in their 70s.
Mm.
And that might have been one reason they weren't really looking for it, but it didn't seem like they were looking for anything beyond a heart attack, which I wasn't having. So my brains were also pretty scrambled. So I wasn't really thinking clearly throughout this whole episode. And it was quite difficult. It was quite a difficult time. And I'm very fortunate I had an amazing community around me and in my faith. So I don't remember if you mentioned it, but I'm Jewish. So um, I've been learning Hebrew since I was 5 years old. When I was in the
Wow.
hospital, I went to do my evening prayers. My friends brought me my prayer book, and I went to do my prayers, and I could no longer read Hebrew. Like an entire language had been knocked out of my head. So that, among a host of other things. So I wasn't in a position to start thinking, why is this happening to me? You know, what have I done? How do I get out of it? I had to leave that to other people to try and figure out.
It's kind of interesting how you mentioned you're Jewish. I also found out that we were Jewish some years ago. So, and we
Hmm.
also have a synagogue in Miami as well. But I digress there. So, but another story I have is that there's this football coach and he had a massive heart attack. It's called a widowmaker. And he
Hmm.
knew the time of his death because they revived him. When you had
Hmm.
that widowmaker heart attack, you don't come back from that. You're dead. So as soon
Yeah.
as he had it, he knew he had it. Looked, he said, "Okay, my time of death is," and then he died, and then he woke up and said, "Hey, I died at 10:31 p.m." So that was an
Hmm.
interesting. So, and when you actually found out that you had this heart attack, did you think that that was it for you? That was you're done. You're going to be found dead on the curb.
I really didn't, because I didn't know that's what was happening to me. Um, and then finally, when they were able to figure out what was happening to me in the hospital, um, I had two or three more episodes in the hospital.
Mm.
So I was pretty sure they were going to take care of me in the hospital, because most of my other attacks had happened out of the hospital. Um, but again, my brains were so scrambled, I wasn't in any position to start thinking, oh, I guess this is the last time, and we'll really see what's on the other side.
When you said you learned Hebrew since you were 5, like, did you know it fluently?
I can read it fluently. I don't understand everything I read, but for our daily prayers, I have a pretty good understanding of what I'm praying. But we're taught that it's preferred that you pray in Hebrew. That's God's language, and I'm certainly not fluent enough to have a conversation with somebody from Israel, but I can I can I guess mutter my way through it, whatever the right word is.
What was it like for you when you spent months trying to figure out what happened to you? What was happening in your life with your family and what you were doing in your job, or whether you gave up your job, or whether you're learning Hebrew again, or reading books of prayers, or going to synagogue? What was happening to you during that time when you were told?
Well, they didn't give me any plan to facilitate any sort of recovery. Like once they figured out the problem was with my heart, they put in a pacemaker, which
Mm.
replaces the signals that weren't going on anymore. But nobody thought to do anything for my concussions and my brain injuries and that. So it was all up to me to figure out something on my own. And we go back to the golden rules: educate yourself and eat properly. And that's what I had to start doing, and exercise. And that's what started my recovery. So I don't think I fully recovered all my Hebrew capabilities, but I'm back to where I can uh, pray with the congregation and almost keep up with them. Some of those guys can pray pretty fast.
How did you learn what to eat and what not to eat and what was good for you and what you can no longer have? Like alcohol, for instance, or smoking? Were you a smoker? Or can you give us a little bit of idea of your meal plan?
No, I really didn't learn how to get better with food probably until 2018, when I started the intermittent fasting. And my friend Jen Stevens, she's my fasting guru, and she wrote a book, Fast, Feast, Repeat. And she says intermittent fasting is like the health plan with a side benefit of weight loss. So in the early 2000s, I was probably 340 pounds.
Really?
And
Wow.
and then, I lost a fair bit of weight uh, using the old, eat less, move more, starve yourself, and kind of thing. And then probably the last 50% of what I've lost, probably 5 or 6 belt sizes, came from intermittent fasting. And one of the benefits of that is it puts you into a very deep ketosis, but it changes your gut microbiome as well. And that's sort of where most of your cravings come from. So if you crave sugar, it's because your gut microbiome, those little critters, want more sugar and ultra processed foods. And once your body rebalances itself and your hormones get rebalanced and your insulin levels go to normal, that's when you start craving the foods that are good for you, the fruits and the veggies. And everybody's slightly different. We're all an experiment of one. So some people will do better on a pure keto, some people will do better on carnivore, some people will do better on low fat, but it just depends on the person. So you have to keep trying and trying and trying and see what works best for you. So basically, I generally eat one meal a day, and possibly a snack, maybe a dessert, and that's about it. I don't count calories. I don't count macros. I just try to listen to what my body's telling me that it wants, and I work from that.
That's very inspirational, Fred, because I know that I watched a video, and I think it was Dr. Berg video on the poison is how poison sugar is.
Hmm.
It's called Sugar is Poison, and I went on like a no sugar diet for like
Hmm.
2 weeks, and I noticed that I started losing weight. So I lost 40 pounds, and I'm happy about that. I try not to eat processed foods, but you say you only on one meal a day, and but maybe a second meal is like a dessert or something. That's inspirational
Hmm.
because I have I don't know if you know what 2MAD and OMAD is. One meal a day,
Hmm.
2 meal. Yeah. So I try to stick with the 2 meals a day, but sometimes I want a third one. But I'm like one of those that like to go out and weigh myself, and I'm like, oh no, I
Hmm.
gained a pound. But for
Yeah.
me, it was like I didn't even have a scale to like when this problem started in January 2023. So now I watch everything. But how about your family? Were they doting all over you when they found out that Fred could have died? Fred probably couldn't have been here anymore, but now he's alive and we're going to spend more time with him. Was it like that at all?
Um, I guess it would have been if I had family around me. So I'm from Winnipeg originally, and my parents were in Winnipeg, my sisters out east, my brothers out west. So Basically, it was my synagogue communities and the business communities that I was with that were my surrogate family, and those were the people who were quite amazing and took care of me quite a bit. They helped me get to doctor appointments, and they would cook for me, or if I needed to get somewhere, they would offer me lifts. It was quite amazing, and you have to have gratitude in your life and appreciation. And I doubt I would have recovered as well as I have because I had doctors that have told me I shouldn't even be alive. What's happened to me is just ridiculous. So without all those outside positive influencers, I don't think I would be here. In fact, I know I wouldn't.
How about your congregation? Did they look at your current health situation and the way you changed your diet? Did that help them decide to change their lifestyle as well?
I've had a number of people start intermittent fasting uh, because of my story, and they see how much it's helped me recover. Some are more successful with it, some are less successful. um, I met a guy who had a stroke about 2 years ago, and he started intermittent fasting, and he also lost about 30 pounds, and his mental clarity has come back. And he says, I can't ever see myself not fasting. So people like that, I feel proud to have influenced. And you never know how much you're helping somebody.
That's true, Fred. So I take it so that your repeated near-death experiences affect your mental health and outlook on life then? Like you're a totally changed man right now.
I am a changed person. I think I'm a much better and nicer person than I was when this all started. I'm not saying that I wasn't good or I wasn't nice or, you know, I wasn't doing good things for other people. I'm just much better now. And I attribute that to all the people that stepped up around me, because these are people you have to realize that they had no reason to help me. Like they barely knew me. You see somebody at synagogue or church or like, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. That sort of thing. And you never have deep, intimate conversations with them. You just know them. And in my book, I tell the story. There was one of the guys in the hospital with me. They didn't know what was going on with him either. And there were all these old ladies that came to visit him. And he said, apparently they're from my church. I have no idea who they are. So, there's just people that do these kind things because it's the right thing to do. And I was swarmed by all these people. So they had that positive influence on me.
What about your thoughts on the afterlife? Like, what happens after you die? Did it ever occur to you?
Well, I get that question asked a lot. And I had some out of body experiences. I, I go to the Bible and, the writings of our rabbis, and they have theories of what happens. But of course, we don't really know until you take that final step. I didn't have any of that come to the light kind of thing. But I did have probably at least 5 episodes where I felt like my soul was leaving my body. And I was looking down on myself from quite a height. And it was very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable, because it felt like my soul didn't know what to do. Like, was it supposed to go wherever it's supposed to go? If you believe heaven, we can call it heaven. Or was it supposed to go back in my body? It was like there was this spiritual tug of war. And I guess my body won in the end because I'm here. So, but it's a fascinating experience, but I don't think it's something I'd recommend people experiencing it on the regular basis.
Well, I know what you mean, Fred. It's called an NDE, near death experience, and I've heard many stories
Mhm.
of people floating over their bodies and they see this light and this angel they think is Jesus. I'm not saying it isn't, because I'm a Christian and know Jesus Christ said that he's the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but through me. But I'm also Jewish, so I would consider myself a Messianic Jew because I believe Jesus was Messiah, and I believe that when you die, I believe that if you believe in Christ, you'll spend eternity with him. But without Christ, you know where you go. But I digress on that one. But I know that, can you tell me, I know you mentioned that the role that your medical team played in your journey and when they responded to your unique condition, have they ever contacted you and keep asking how you are, Fred? What's going on? Or they like, okay, he's fine now, he's got his pacemaker, or they are constantly making sure you're okay?
I have 2 or 3 cardiologists that I have to see
Mm-hmm.
pretty much every quarter. So I see them on a regular basis. They, you know, it's pretty rare for any doctor to call you uh, unless you grew up with them and they're family friends or something. Uh, they just don't have the time. I did a podcast that I haven't posted yet with uh, Sohail Gandhi, who was the past president of the Ontario Medical Association, and we had good talk about problems that we're having with the Ontario healthcare system and other healthcare systems in North America. And he's got some great ideas, but the politicians aren't listening to him. But they really, your family doctor doesn't have time to call you. They're doing 19 hours of paperwork a week on average, just because of the bureaucracy.
I know, and it's terrible that they can't fix that. And we're not blaming anybody. People, they have down here on Sundays, they have like, vaccineinjuries.com banner and
Mhm.
you know, it's like ridiculous. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not something you want to share on a podcast. But everyone, when Fred talks about his podcast, that's Dead Man Walking Podcast. We'll link his YouTube channel down below and everything, and how to get his book, like I mentioned before. Fred, can you explain everyone exactly what intermittent fasting is and how it contributed to your recovery and overall health improvement?
Sure. Intermittent fasting, or some people call it time restricted eating, is just basically teaching your body to eat enough till you're satisfied and get the nutrients you need, and don't eat the rest of the day. So, when I started intermittent fasting, because I was on a whole bunch of medications and the doctors didn't know how fasting was going to impact my body, they started me very strictly doing what's called a 12-12. So I had a 12-hour window where all I could do was drink water, plain water, no flavors, nothing, and then a 12-hour window where I could eat. And of course, you're not going to eat for 12 hours straight, or at least I hope you're not, but you could eat during that window. And probably within 2 months of me starting, I had transitioned from that 12-12 to an 18-6, so 18 hours of fasting, and I could only eat in that 6-hour window to 20 to 4, and then to the OMAD, so to the one meal a day. And it's amazing. When I started, I was on some pretty significant doses of insulin. I was diabetic, type 2 diabetic, and within 6 months, my diabetes had reversed itself. I was no longer on insulin. My sleep apnea went away. Uh, there's a ton of things I could list that just you know the
Wow.
doctors are amazed by, and a lot of the doctors are familiar with how intermittent fasting works, but some of them are just very old school. They don't learn a lot about nutrition in med school, and you know this is what I learned in med school. If somebody's, their blood sugars are too high, you put them on insulin. So that's the standard operating procedure.
Yeah, I know somebody, and his name is going to be a mystery. So he had stage 4 cancer. He had an 11 or 12-inch tumor in his colon. The doctor said to him that he had 4 months to live. So he said, nope, not taking any of that poison chemo. I'm not going to have any chemicals for my body. I'm going to look at some holistic medicine. So he discovered, I think he went on a carnivore diet. He
Hmm.
stopped having sugar and his tumor shrunk. That he went in remission, totally impossibility. You're in stage 4 cancer. You have stage 4 colon cancer, you're going to die. And no, 7, 8 years later, he's still alive. He's on
Hmm.
keto. And if you tell a doctor that I'm changing my diet, I'm going on keto, they'll yell at you and say, get the heck out of my office and never want to talk to you, because they're supposed to give you medications. They want you to have chemo. Did you know? Now, I don't know, YouTube might kick me off here. Did you know the reason why doctors are pushing medications on you? Because they get a kickback. They get
Hmm.
more money. So if they pump chemo through you, they get extra money. And it's like, that's all it is, just money, money, money. They keep us sick. They don't want us to live. So, and the processed food, like um, maltodextrin, which is potato starch, and when you, I go into a store now and I look at all the ingredients, and nope, look at the bread. Oh, multigrain. Oh, 18 grains. Nope. It's got everything in it. It's better just to go to Whole Foods or something. We have one down here, but it's very expensive. They have something
Hmm.
called Genesis 129 bread, and they have Ezekiel bread.
Hmm.
$14 for 8 slices. What? Like, I know I want to be healthy by eating healthy stuff, but you want me to pay $30 for like 2 things? Is ridiculous. So I either go on a 2 MAD or an OMAD, and you're right about the 6 hours. That I was told that you eat every 6 hours. So if I eat at like 8 a.m. in the morning, I'm not eating lunch till like 2. And sometimes I might skip lunch and eat dinner around 5. And I've lost significant weight, so I like doing that. But at the same time, that pacemaker you have, I
Hmm.
suppose it's permanent. So that's not really something that they'll be able to remove from you, even if you live like as a carnivore for the next 10 years.
No, if my pacemaker's on a battery that has a lifespan, so when they measure that, that's why I see the doctors every 4 months, and they say, how much fuel is left in the battery, and once it gets to a certain point, they say, okay, we have to take this one out and put in a new one. I've had 5 or 6 pacemakers, uh, and they're supposed to last for 10 to 15 years, depending on what they're doing. Each pacemaker does a different thing. I wish my phone battery would last 10 to 15
Yeah.
years, you know. But so I've my journey with pacemakers has not been the easiest one. They've failed, and when they fail, I stop. I'm dead again. So I've had a whole bunch of instances and emergencies with that. My current pacemaker doctor, uh, he's performed some very unique surgeries on me, and he's like a Harry Potter. He's just like a wizard with what he's done for me. I wouldn't be alive without him.
Yeah, I have a friend like that. His heart is so set up strangely. I think his heart's on the right or on the left,
Oh
but the
yes.
heart's on the, and his doctor is the only one that could deal with him. But the guy passed away, and now he's living on borrowed time, but he's still alive. And it's like this: the heart is the heart is something you have to keep healthy, because when your ticker goes, you go, and you don't want that to happen. So I know that you're like me, where you like to spend just every moment. And when you wake up in the morning, it's a gift from God, and they got another day to go to synagogue, another day to pray, to eat, to live your life. But when you go to sleep at night, it's sort of refreshes your soul.
Hmm.
So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your recovery process?
Well, I was physically and mentally beat up, and it wasn't just that first year, the summer I died 20 times. It's been 5 or 6 times. So I've probably had 12 heart procedures in the last 14, 15 years, and it takes a lot of energy from your body to heal. And it's not always um, unicorns and rainbows. Those there's some days that are pretty dark, but you have to work on your mindset and work on being positive. And you know, uh, God wants you to pray when you're not feeling good. I mean, because it's medicinal. It's not just asking God for things. There's a medicinal component to it. There's a health component, and people often forget that.
Is it true that you can't go near a microwave when you have a pacemaker? Is that a fable or is that actually true?
I think in the early days, that was definitely true. Um, you couldn't go by, those transformer boxes you see on boulevards and stuff like that. You weren't supposed to go within 10 feet of those, but now they've discovered or created some sort of shielding. So you can go through those. I wasn't supposed to go through the x rays at the airport. I can go through those now. So
Wow.
I still can't do an MRI. An MRI will definitely fry me from the inside out.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, I can do a CAT scan, but an MRI definitely not.
Let's find out. Hey, Hannah, he wants to do a CAT scan. uh, but yeah, apparently, yeah, you're so inspirational. It's amazing. Now, I
Thank you.
know that your experiences impact your relationships, especially people from the synagogue and your Jewish family and from the church. But people actually want to treat you the same as you were before. They want to treat you the same, Fred. They don't want to have to say, "Oh, he's almost died, so we're going to like, you okay, Fred?" So, how do you deal with people who like? Do you agree that people should treat you the same as you were before, or do you get a lot of people who are trying to think that, "Oh, Fred, let me help you. Let me do this for you," because I've had that happen to me at one point.
Yeah, I think I can't control how people want to treat me, but I remember after one of my surgeries, people would at the end of prayers they'd say, "Do you want to lift home? You're looking kind of wobbly or whatever." And as I was starting to feel better, and it was a 2 kilometer walk. It's like nothing huge, but it's not short either. I started saying thanks, but I prefer to get the exercise now that I'm feeling better. And people would say, okay. And they'd leave me. And then one of the rabbis came up to me and he says, if you keep saying no to people, they're never going to offer to help you again for anything. So you have to figure out a way to accept their graciousness and say maybe how about a ride halfway home? So they get to do their good deed, which makes them feel good and connected to you. And I get to let them do the good deed and also get some exercise that I needed. So it's about compromises. It's all about compromises. You don't want to make anybody feel bad. Can't
That's
tell them,
true.
stop asking me, stop being nice to me. I don't want that anymore.
I know. Wow. What I like be asking you, what motivated you to write The Summer I Died 20 Times? And what do you hope readers take away from your story?
I started it sort of as journaling uh, through my therapist. And because I had so much memory loss, it was hard for me to journal because I couldn't remember a lot of things. Things didn't come back sequentially to me. So I sort of gave up on it and then I would start again and gave up on it. My intent wasn't to write a book. Um, and then eventually, probably around a year or so before COVID, I started getting a lot of memory back. So I was able to write more and more of the story.
Wow.
And then when COVID hit, um, there was nothing else to do. You sit out on the deck. Look, I was fortunate. We had a deck overlooking a park, and I would just sit on the deck and try and write 1,000 words a day or whatever it was, and then it turned into what looked like a book. And my friends encouraged me to to see if I can get it published because it's a story worth telling. And my hope is that people will find the book and be inspired. And, um, there's a doctor who survived the Holocaust named Viktor Frankl,
Hmm.
and he wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And to sort of crunch it into something quite small, he says, if you have hope, you can overcome almost anything. And that's what people need. You know, it's not some hope isn't something you can go to Canadian Tire or Walmart and buy. It's sitting there for you to grasp. And it takes a certain mindset. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying, you're going to be full of hope every moment of every day, but it is something. You've got to have that faith, you've got to have that hope that things are going to improve. And just that activity alone is medicinal and helpful to you and those around you.
Yeah, I've heard of people saying, I almost died and I saw my life flash before me. I've spoken to firefighters who actually were part of the whole 9/11 where they had to go and rescue people, and
Mhm,
it's amazing, like, some of the tragedies they've seen and the burned bodies and everything, and at the point where they thought they were gonna die. And also I heard, and you're talking about this Viktor Frankl, I heard from people who said that they were on the top of the 108th floor and they made it out
mhm,
alive.
mhm,
So it has nothing to do with thought I was going to die. I see my life flash before me. It's a thing of what is your life going to be like when you find out that you didn't die and you're still alive? Do you change? Or are you the same old drunkard? You the same old alcoholic? You drink, you smoke, curse? Or are you a totally different person that your life is taking now a 180-degree turn? Because many people don't learn their lesson. Many people
mhm,
don't learn their lesson. And I have to stress the fact that I could have died in the kitchen of a heart attack. People would have found me in the kitchen. They would have no idea what was going on. And now on keto, and I'm like, every day it's the Lord, you've given me another day to live my life.
mhm,
And most of us think, okay, we'll just do whatever we do, go to bed and expect to wake up in the morning and do the same thing. But how do you know that this is not going to be your last day on earth? And this actress that I know, very young actress, told me that you just got to take one day at a time because you'll never know what tomorrow will bring.
mhm,
Like, live for the moment, don't worry about tomorrow, and you can be happy and free and full of life. And now that you're on a different diet, and there's probably certain foods that you can no longer have, and you
mhm,
probably can't drink beer or any alcohol anymore, probably because of sugar in that.
mhm,
Except maybe you fast with water, I assume, because I was like, I would have 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in lemon, yep, in lemon,
mhm,
and drink that. That does wonders for you. And I don't have soft drinks anymore. I have carbonated water. And I just
mhm,
try my best to move away from the crap like maltodextrin and all that crap and the carbohydrates and move towards a healthy life. What they say, um, happy wife, happy life. Well, when it comes
mhm,
to health, um, happy life, happy health, and happy wealth, you can be wealthy in soul as well.
mhm,
And I'm not saying that you're living on the edge. I'm just saying that every day is a brand new day, and you live for that moment. And Fred, like your church friend said, and other doctors saying that you're not supposed to be here today. But look where you
mhm,
are. Look where you are right now. You've
mhm.
surpassed everything. And is there any advice for others who might be facing severe medical challenges? Anything you can tell them?
You never know what the medical community is going to come up with. You really don't. I mean, you look back at some of the old Star Trek TV shows, and they had, I don't know, what was it, tricorders or all these. I mean, the technology that's keeping me alive. Yes, there were pacemakers 15 years ago, but not like the ones I have now.
Like
Like these
Jarvik
are,
7.
yeah, this is, supercomputer almost stuff. And they wouldn't have been able to fix. I'm not going to get into all the technicalities because I'm actually being kept alive by two pacemakers at the same time right now.
Wow.
And I think that's only, maybe a dozen people in the world that are wired up like me. So it's it's unbelievable. The medications, are the doctors always right? Of course not. They can't be, because there's only one God. And I don't know about you, but my surgeon's a wizard because God allows him to be a wizard. He comes up with these creative solutions that are keeping me alive because that's what God wants him to do. So, you have to have faith, but you also have to trust your instincts, trust your gut. And that goes back to the microbiome that I was talking about before. We have intuition for a reason, and we should act on it. And if you think you need to challenge your doctor, you have to do that in a respectful way. I mean, they have fragile egos too, just like we do. And that's a lesson I had to learn: is you had to advocate for yourself and tell the doctors, this isn't right. That's not right. I know you think this is working, but I'm the one in the body, and I can tell you I'm not feeling good. I can tell you my memory's not right. I can tell you I'm not sleeping right. And eventually, you know, if the doctor's not willing to listen to you, you have to try and get a different doctor.
I know you're talking about Star Trek. I still can't. Even in 23rd century, Captain Picard still has an artificial heart, which he lost when he was 22 years old in a fight with the Gnosticans in the bar. I mean, 23rd century, they can't have they still have an artificial heart. I mean, what's going on here? That's just a little side
Hmm.
thing there. You mentioned it, so it's kind of
Hmm.
interesting.
I think
And
by then they're just gonna grow new organs.
yeah, grow a new heart, definitely. How do you manage the ongoing effects of PTSD and post-concussion syndrome?
Well, I think for me, managing it has, I mean, everybody will experience that a different way. So I can only talk on how it's worked for me. Learning something above my pay grade every day helps, because it helps to rewire your brain and get neurons rebuilding themselves and everything like that. Um, but just being around positive people. Um, I think I think this is a Malcolm Gladwell thing, but as you
Hmm.
become an adult, your personality becomes the composite of like the 5 or 7 or 10, whatever the number is, people you hang out with the most. And if you hang out with good quality, caring people, that your personality is going to morph into more like them. So my circle is a little bigger than 10. I've got some amazing doctors who are very positive. My therapist is amazing. She's been incredibly helpful to me. Um, so once you become that better person, you attract better people. Like your circle keeps getting better and better and better. And that in itself helps you heal. It's hard to be an old curmudgeon and cranky and get off my lawn when you surround yourself with all these amazing people who are saying, "Yeah, come on my lawn, come on my porch, come for a meal, come do this, come do that." It's a big part of the healing process.
Have you connected with others that had pacemakers and heart problems?
A little bit. It's a pretty common surgery now. I think they do like 800,000 a year
Wow.
around the world. Um, so, but your doctor can't tell you who else has a pacemaker because of medical privacy stuff.
Hmm.
So um, there is a Facebook group I'm a little involved with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, and so I've met a few people through that group, and hopefully, I'm going to get some speaking gigs through them, so I can help spread the message and help people go through whatever they're going through, their individual struggles, and be a positive force.
Do you help them with the diet aspect of it?
I certainly tell people about intermittent fasting all the time, and it's up to them if they want to adopt it. I tell them I'm open to answering any questions. Just message me or email me, and I can try to put you on the right path. Um, as I said, there's a number of people I know that have gone on to intermittent fasting and have done very well with it. And it's also a big part of intermittent fasting is mindset. You have to have that right mindset to change a serious habit. Like eating is a habit. And if your body's not responding to the way you're eating, you need to change the habit. Now, am I the thinnest I could be from this? No, I could probably use another 30 pounds or so. Because as I said, I was about 340 pounds. Now I think
Wow.
I'm about 220. So
Oof. Wow. It's amazing. But of course, your life has changed. And what about sports? Are you allowed to go jogging, allowed to play tennis? Are you allowed to work out?
I'm definitely allowed to. Like most people, I don't do enough. Uh, I, you know, I was riding my bike a lot, like probably 60 to 90 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week. And things happened, and I got out of that habit. I'm hopefully going to get back into that habit. Um, I'm not allowed to do anything where I might have an impact. Like I couldn't play hockey again, or you know,
Oh.
uh, take up boxing or anything like that. But mostly cardio stuff. I'm totally clear to do that. And
How about climbing
again,
stairs? You lose your breath?
no. Then again, I haven't tried to do the CN Tower lately. I
Oh,
imagine I would
wow.
lose my breath on that. But no, going up 2 or 3, 4 flights of stairs, I'm fine. Your pacemaker is amazing. It's in your phone you have these gyroscopes and altimeters and things like that. The pacemaker knows when your heart needs to speed up. It can tell that your muscles are firing, um, and so it'll speed up as you're going up the stairs, and it'll slow down when you're not going up the stairs. It knows the difference. This is what amazes me. It knows the difference when you're in a car versus walking. Like if you're in a car going 60 miles an hour, it's not going, maybe I should speed up to 150 beats a minute. It just these things are just so smart. It's incredible.
It's true. So what would you consider, what would be your plans for the future, both personally and professionally?
Professionally, I'd love to find a way to be able to speak to groups, to be a motivational speaker
Like a
beyond the
TED Talk?
podcast. Yeah. Hey, Ted, if you're out there, give me a call. I love doing podcasts. I love being a positive influence. People ask me, why do you think you're still alive? And, it's not really a question you can answer. It's only something that God can answer. But my best guess is I'm supposed to be an inspiration to other people to help them get over whatever they need to get over. And I hope I'm doing that.
Yeah, your Dead Men Walking podcast. Can you give us an idea of the people that you have? Like, what's your niche for that? You mind me asking? People like you
Uh,
or other situations?
well, there's no one like me. So um, I have a lot of people who have overcome adversity. You know, uh, they're just amazing, amazing people. A lot of people help me get my book published, so I like to have
Mm.
aspiring authors come on and help them get some publicity for their books and what they've accomplished. And then others, I just find interesting people. I had Dr. Gandhi on just because I thought that's something people wanted to talk about.
Wow.
Um, I've had comedians on. Um, last week I had a guy from Wyoming who set up a program to help people deal with troubled children, problem children. He's been very successful at it. And so just anybody that I come across that I think would be interesting, I'm likely to have on my show. I had an illustrator award-winning illustrator, and she was fascinating. Grew up in Poland, became refugees, moved to Switzerland, then moved to Toronto, and she became a tennis star. She got a scholarship to a university in Florida.
Wow.
And from that, she was almost a tennis pro, and she got recruited by the FBI to be a profiler.
Really?
And
Wow.
yeah, and then she said, you know what? I want to be an artist. That's what my soul's telling me.
Wow.
And she gave up on that, and now she's an award-winning illustrator. So
Wow,
so
that's amazing. I noticed your
yeah.
interview with on the From Embers to Excellence podcast. That was interesting. You're doing the circuit, my friend. You're going all over the place telling people about how they can change their lives. You're quite an inspiration. I hope you do a lot of TED Talks, TEDx talks, find people that you might be able to help. You're talking about God using other doctors or heart surgeons, and you call them wizards. With
Mhm.
the amount of good you put out in the world, God will probably use you to become someone else's wizard. It works both ways, you never know.
Mhm. Well, I hope so. I mean, I hope I'm doing God's work. I'm doing what He wanted me to do from all this ordeal. So, but I guess I'll never know until that time. I'm not repeatedly dead Fred there anymore. I'm permanently dead Fred. That's when you'll find out the truth.
Can you, before we end the stream, can you give some advice to people out there struggling with their weight, with their health, struggling with PTSD, anything that you can provide them some sort of advice or some sort of just a heartfelt this is motivation for them?
Well, if I look at my life from 20 years ago when I was 340 pounds, um, it was mostly self-inflicted. I mean, I think there was some genetic predisposition to it, but probably 70% of it was self-inflicted. And you have to take responsibility for whatever you can. And you don't have to take huge steps all at once. There's that old uh, adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's how you have to attack your weight loss. You can't Most people can't change a bad habit in the extreme and be successful and maintain it. You have to start just chipping away at it. Think of yourself as a Michelangelo, you know,
Mm.
doing the statue of David. That didn't happen in a month. It took a long, long time. And think of yourself as a body and habit recomposition master. You know, you're a Da Vinci, you're a Michelangelo, you're a Picasso. Just make those subtle little changes and it'll get you to where you need to go.
Is there another? Well, thank you very much for that word of encouragement, people. Everyone, the Summer I Died 20 Times book will be linked down below. Is there another book in the near future, Fred?
There are two potential books. One is The Summer I Died 20 Times Continues, because a lot of things happened after 2018 to me. And so I died a whole bunch more times. And something totally unrelated is I've been working on a fictional serial killer book, which has been a lot of fun because I've gotten to speak to FBI agents and Interpol agents and
Wow.
homicide detectives and stuff like that. So getting to do all this research has been a lot of fun. Um,
And they
Not
helped
to
you complete.
glorify serial killers.
No, I know, and they got you to figure out this fictional serial killer just simply by talking to these people. Wow, that's awesome, man. See,
Mhm.
you're getting around. It's amazing. Okay, everyone. Fred Rutman, he wrote a book called Summer I Died 20 Times, calls them repeatedly Dead Fred. And all the social media and everything down will be down below. And also, I believe that we're able to, I guess, post your email publicly. So if people want to
Yeah,
get you on their podcast,
sure.
yes, no?
That would be great. Yes, great.
Oh,
Thank you.
you scared me there for a minute. Sounds good, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. This has been great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry about the questioning, but I'm pretty sure I can take all the good parts, put them all together, and have a nice looking episode.
I think whatever you do with it, it'll be great. Personally, I don't edit my own podcasts.
Oh, you don't?
Um, no, whatever happens, happens. I'm sort of like, um, I'm a little bit older than you, I think. So I remember watching the Johnny Carson show with my parents, and it's when things went bad. Things didn't go to script and they went off the rails, and it gives a sense of realism. And we're trying to have a real talk here. So, if we lose a little fluidity, who cares?
I know that for a fact. I remember my cat just suddenly up, and I recorded the whole thing. I'm just trying to find it because I want to do like a video called "The Times When My Cat Interrupted My Interview." And just put them all
Oh, that would
together
be
in one
great.
video. And I can't. I have to look at them, find them all. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Fred. Can you
You're
just wait
very
right
welcome.
there? Wait right there.
Mhm.
Wait right there.